welcome to a brand new season of Dream Car Garage, and we've got some giant changes. Actually, it's a small change. Michelle Jobin's taking the place of Tom.
Happy to be here this season, Pete. We have some incredible cars to talk about, and of course some incredible cars to show you as well, don't we?
Well, the guys here at Legendary Outback are building a Super Cuda, a 1,500 horsepower twin-turbo Enzo killer. How's that?
Pretty cool, but I have a car that'll get you a lot of attention if you take this one out of the road, the Nissan GT-R R35 2010 model, no less.
You're going to get more attention in that than I am.
I don't know if I need the car for that, Pete, to be honest with you.
Good point. Good point. We're also going to talk about Cobra Safety. This car raced at Daytona in 1965 when drivers were dispensable. Today, if you're going to race it, you're going to put a little more cage in. We're going to show you what to do.
And if you want to be the envy of all your friends, you can do what we did. Over the next couple episodes, we have driving tips. We spent some time at the track with the one and only Ron Fellows. Very cool. Today we're going to learn about seating position.
We've got a brand new segment too. We're going to visit a collector every episode. We're going to check out their collection, but more importantly, we're going to check out how they made some of their dough and how they got to that collection housed. Some of them are just killer garages, some are smaller, some are monstrous. Every episode, we're going to do a new collector.
All of that's coming up on Dream Car Garage.
Coming up on Dream Car Garage, Peter introduces the world to the Super Cuda project, and I check out the Nissan GT-R R35.
Well, over the last 10 years right here on Dream Car Garage, we've always restored great original cars. Occasionally we threw in a factory race car just to show you how those were done. Well, let's face it, resto mods are here to stay. Over the last couple of years, it's become a very big part of car culture, and we're going to try and build the ultimate resto mod. And all that is about is taking an old car, new performance, mixing the two, and getting the best of both worlds. Well, what if we could take a noisy 70 Cuda like that, put a Viper drivetrain in it, and run it against an Enzo Ferrari? Well, we're going to build a tube chassis, basically a street-legal race car with a Viper drivetrain in it, and we're going to see just how close we can get to the ultimate supercar. This is going to be the Super Cuda project. Well, when the Viper first came out in 1992, many considered the V10 nothing more than a glorified truck motor. Well, by the third generation, the Viper engine had proven itself more than reliable. Well, when a slightly damaged 05 Viper landed on our doorstep, it made for the perfect donor car. The all-aluminum motor, heads, transmission made for a lightweight package for our Super Cuda. Well, the rear end in a Viper is more than adequate for the 500 foot-pounds of torque that the stock Viper puts out. Problem is, in our Super Cuda, we're going to be making closer to 800 foot-pounds of torque with the twin turbo. Although the center section itself is more than adequate, the internals will need to be converted to the beefier Quaife unit. With today's modern supercars evolving with more and more horsepower, take the MC12 today, the Enzo, and of course the Bugatti Veyron, making 1,000 horsepower with 4 turbo units in a V16. In order for the Super Cuda to compete with any one of these supercars, we're really going to have to up our game. I got the chance to drive an FXX a couple years ago at Mosport, and ultimately that is what we want the Super Cuda to perform like. Is it possible for Legendary Motorcar to think they can compete with the Ferrari FXX?
The 2008 Nissan GT-R R35 was probably the most hotly anticipated new performance car in recent memory. Not to mention, it was a legend before it even hit the showrooms. The original Skyline dates back to 1969, but it wasn't until 1990 that the GT-R legend really became solidified. Now, when we contacted Nissan about driving the GT-R, it's June, so we figured we'd be getting our hands on an 09 model. But lucky us, it's now time to say konnichiwa to the 2010. Okay, Okay, so let's talk specs now, shall we? The GTR R35 boasts a 3.8-liter twin-turbo V6. So, small engine, lots of giddy up, thanks to those twin turbos. How much horsepower exactly? Well, 485 to be exact. Not to mention 430 foot-pounds of torque. It does 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. And for those of you that are racing nuts, this is going to mean something to you. For one lap of the Nürburgring circuit, it's been 7 minutes, 38 seconds. The GTR R35 boasts a really sophisticated Damptronics shock system with 3 settings: normal, comfort for maximum compliance, and R for ultimate handling. And you're going to need that. How fast does it go? Well, officially, the GTR R35's maximum speed is 193 miles per hour. And for those of you that prefer metric, that's about 311 kilometers an hour. This car, incredible power, incredible straight line speed. So yeah, it's fast. It's really fast, and it's got a lot of power. But what sets this car apart is its cornering. Everything about this car was built to handle those fast and vicious turns without your tail end spinning way out to the right or the left. The main argument a lot about Japanese cars is that they don't have any soul, like the Italian cars, like the muscle cars, like the German cars. But my argument is, do you really need a soul when you have this much speed and power? I don't think it matters. For my money, or for yours, ridiculous power and speed, incredible stability in the corners. All right, some may argue about the looks, but I like them. And whether you park your car in one spot or in 3, you have to admit that's a hell of a lot of bang for your buck.
Up next on Dream Car Garage, we head to the track for a driving tip with the one and only Ron Fellows.
Well, not only have we changed up the host, we've also changed up a couple of the segments. One of the new segments is all about learning how to drive. We're going to teach you some driving basics for the street, for the racetrack. We're going to even take you to the drag strip. We're even going to have a stunt fella in. Shane Cardwell is going to show us some simple stunts. But in order to do that, we need professionals. One of the professionals we got is Ron Fellows. He's won just about everything he's ever raced, from NASCAR, Trans Am, ALMS. He's won Daytona. He's won Le Mans. Anything else? Ron, how are you?
Anything we can get our hands on.
So Ron's going to teach us the basics of driving, and it's going to start with?
Seating position is all about comfort and efficiency. Okay, seated in the Corvette. Obviously the seat's all the way back, as is the back. Steering wheel's far forward. Peter was not the last guy to drive this. Now, for the highway, this may be relatively comfortable. You're not doing any kind of heavy steering. These muscles up here, if I was to take this to the track, these are the muscles I'd be using to try and turn. I'm going to do about 3 laps, and I'm going to be worn out. I got to get closer to the wheel. Left foot on the dead pedal. Going to move the seat forward. Got a little bend in the knee, still have leverage for the brake pedal and for wide open throttle. Now, steering wheel, plenty of adjustment in a Corvette. Most cars these days. And drop it down just a tick. Telescoping, move it towards me. Elbows just inside your steering wheel. I can do this, move my wrist in front of my stomach. Next thing we're gonna do, set the mirrors. Okay, we're gonna set the mirrors. And it's not even different on the track than it is for the street. You don't need to be doing a lot of this. You've got access to great mirrors, left side, right side, center. So we're gonna set the left side mirror first. Because on the track, you want to make sure that whatever you're passing, that Porsche for instance, that you're nice and clear. Now, center mirror, get it nice and set, that all you have to do is move your eyes. You don't need to be moving out of the seat to have a look at the mirror. Easily adjustable. Besides, you want to have a good look after you pass that guy in a Porsche and see the smile on his face turn to grimace. And don't forget seatbelt. We are ready to go.
Yeah, Chris is one of the unusual collectors or customers that we have because he actually drives his cars on a regular basis.
I had a love of cars from watching my dad. He was a Ford man. I couldn't talk him out of Fords, so I got him talked into buying my mom a 68 Copo 427 Camaro.
Chris had the Camaro and lived in the general vicinity of a Chevrolet dealership that I worked at, and that was in 1969. Chris and I managed to become close friends, and then subsequent to that, because we all more or less raced together, Chris needed some help, and that's how we kind of came together.
After I did that for a while and got caught drag racing and lost my license and a few other sundry things and a $5,000 fine street racing, I decided that I had to do something with my life. In 1974, I opened up the Allen Test Products distributorship. When we opened up the Allen Company, we also started the Automotive Training Institute training technicians, and we trained about 200 techs a week. ATI began to explode and take off. My wife and I started creating a bucket list of everything we wanted to do before we died, and she always wanted to have a swimming pool, and I always wanted to have a house in the country with a giant garage full of muscle cars. The garage is designed to be climate controlled on both floors, as well as house about 11 vehicles in air-conditioned comfort that are all ready to go on trickle chargers at any 1 minute. So in order to do that and look good, we had to go to designer doors and build solid wood doors with glass and that were insulated, and we stained them and powder coated all the trim to match the dark burgundy walls. So, and then we needed a floor that was going to look formal enough to go with the house, but to be resilient enough to handle oil and antifreeze. So we went with Italian porcelain. We have a rotary in-ground smart lift that we had to powder coat to match the Italian porcelain, which nobody really knew how to do that. We kind of like went slow with that one. We put tons of windows in it to match the house. Then since everything was going to be designed in cherry, we bumped out the wall and recessed it so that the garage would be straight and all the cars would fit. We had all the mahogany and the cherry cabinets custom designed to hold the tools and hold all the detail supplies and be able to make everything else work. The goal here for me was to be able to work on my business from here. We built the loft and put my office up here. But one of the original ideas that we had when we built this garage was also to be able to be at a drive-in movie theater. We wanted to replicate that. So the 15-foot projection screen, the coolest thing is my whole family, as we all sit in different cars, it all faces the projection screen, and everybody sits in the car and be able to hear the sound system and watch movies. So, we put a Fireball in with 400 DVDs so the kids can change all the movies as many times as they want, and it's really a lot of fun.
Up next, in the glory days of racing, the cars were fast, but not so safe. An update on Cobra safety coming up.
Well, in the early and mid-60s, the Shelby was one of the most formidable race cars on the planet. But old Carroll wasn't really concerned about drivers, he was more concerned about winning races. If you have a close look at the inside of a Cobra, and this car actually ran at Daytona in 1965, this is what a legitimate race car of the day looked like. There was absolutely no side impact protection. Well, if you want to call a 3/4 inch tube, 0.65 wall thickness, and maybe 1, 2, 3 of them side impact protection, that's all you had. Well, the guys in the race shop here at Legendary Motor Car are a little more civilized. They actually expect the driver to be able to walk away from a wreck. With the doors closed, you're not going to see any of this cage on either side. The original roll bar and the rear bracing is very similar to the original, so from the exterior, the only add-ons you're going to really see are the forward braces. Now, if you look closely at the chassis here, all the outriggers have been changed. Everything is done in chromoly, 1 3/4, 1.5 inches, and everything is backed up to pick up the original suspension points. You can see here where the main hoop is backed up by this piece here, which is triangulated down to the top A-arm. You can see all of these pieces here actually wrap around underneath the original body, so it's hidden quite nicely, and it gives you a protection from the side, the back, and even over the top and from the front, because if you take a line from here down to the main tube up here, the driver sits well below that, which is really important. Well, the second thing that we have to be really concerned about when we're building the roll cage is about the seat, and the mounting of the seat is important. Here's why. A friend of mine actually raced at Road Atlanta. The seat broke free, ended up in the back area. She was in a halo for over 6 months. Real important to have the seat mounted properly. The second thing is the seat belts. Everybody's going now to a double shear bolting system. This way the seat belt can freely go back and forth, and it's never in bind. The other thing we did is lowered the seat in the chassis. We notched the main tube. It's a 4-inch main tube. We notched it maybe an inch to get the driver as low as possible. The last part of the roll cage, or the chassis, that is really important as far as safety goes is the fuel cell area. Have a look at this. What we've done is we've taken some 1 3/8 chrome moly, brought it right to the back here, attached it to the main hoop up front, and then we've got this sort of rear impact area here that if the car gets hit from the back, it's not going to get directly into the fuel cell immediately. It's going to take a lot of impact to get anywhere near here. The rest of it is mounted the way NASCAR asks us to mount it in the stock cars, so you know it's going to be safe. The last thing we did is run the fuel line right through the middle of the chassis. We open it up on both ends, in the rear here and in the front, and it pops out right by the motor. There's no way that the car's ever going to get in a wreck bad enough where they're going to get into that fuel line. All of these things combined, these cars are absolute weapons. They're 650 horsepower, they're in a 2,500-pound car, but this driver's going to be as safe as he's ever going to be.
Coming up next on Dream Car Garage, we check out Chris Frederick's 1969 Copo Camaro.
Well, if old cars could talk, wouldn't it be interesting? Well, this 69 Copo Camaro can. You know why? Because the original owner still owns it, and it's got some stories to tell.
My dad bought my mom a 68 Corvette big block and asked me whether we should get her a clutch or an automatic. And of course, back in those days, no red-blooded American boy ever said anything about an automatic. So I said, you got to get her a stick shift. And unfortunately, she was 5 foot and she never was able to drive it. And my dad got really angry at me and made me trade it in, even up. He wouldn't give me or my mom a nickel more. And he said, go buy your mom an automatic car. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it does. Just go buy it. So I went to Sport Chevrolet in Silver Spring, Maryland. I said, what do you got that's fast? And there was a 427, 425 horsepower Copo Camaro sitting on the showroom floor. And my mother says, it looks a little plain. You sure you want this? I said, yeah, Mom, I think this is going to be just fine. So that night, we drove it home, even up trade on the 68 Corvette, and I learned what street racing was all about. But eventually, like all stupid kids, I got caught. That was the last night we drove the car on the street. So then from hanging out at Coleman Brothers Speed Shop, I met Ed Warren, and between Ed and my dad, we all decided that maybe we should turn this into a super stock D-automatic car. And we ended up racing the Copo for a couple years, and then I got married and sold the car to Ed.
I'm going to bare my soul before the world here and probably get hate mail, but my idea was to put the car from super stock into B-modified production. And in order to do that, I had to facilitate liquidating the parts that came with the car. Little did I know, in 35 years, what that would mean. When I was contacted by Chris, I reflected on the fact where I was in my life and what was going on, and I thought about the fact that he wanted the car back, and I thought there was only really one really legitimate person that this car should be with, and that was Chris.
We decided that after I bought the car back, my mom her health was failing. She was almost 90, and she kind of wanted to see the car again. I wanted her to see it more than anything. We sent the car up to Legendary just in time to get my mom to see it. She passed away 4 weeks ago. She got to see it. I tried to get her in it, but she wouldn't stand for that, and she passed away 2 weeks later. So thank God for you guys and able to get it done in time.
Well, this car has obviously had an interesting and hard life and really shouldn't have been resurrected when you think about it. But what it meant to Chris Fredericks, what it meant to his family, it was well worth every penny he spent on this car. So what is a car like this worth? Priceless.
I'm all excited about next week because you know what I get to do next week? It's Lambo Day next week. Me, V10. That's all I have to say.
Wow, 63 T-Bird for me.
Yeah, that's probably more your speed.
Stay tuned next week, and we've got a great new collection for you as well. All that on Dream Car Garage.